All right. I've got a good. These are some of the best ones, right? The lectures. People just riffing. I don't know Edwin my squeaky chair. I'm so sorry. I hate it so much. Okay. Lectures on ancient peoples. Edwin Walters. Don't know him. Haven't looked him up. I'm sure if I did, something would pop up. But he's got some good information here. Not all of it I agree with, but who cares what I agree with? And I'll try not to get when I edit, my ADD to go off too many, left and rights. But when I see a squirrel, I say squirrel. So, lectures on ancient peoples. Edwin Walters speaks in an interesting address on some prehistoric races. Attention was called to the fact that soil, water, climate, topography in general, natural environment determine to a large degree the characteristics of man in any given country. In ancient times, the different races lived in isolation, and the above-mentioned environments were the determining factors to a much greater degree than they are today, when immigration and importation of articles of diet are disturbing factors. It was suggested that the study of the above environments would enable us to better understand the prehistoric races. There were scores, possibly hundreds, of centers of population and civilization in ancient times, from which tides of immigration swept outward to other parts of the world. So far as now known, the oldest high civilization in the entire world was in Yucatan, the most southern state in Mexico. The people who inhabited that country are known as the Mayas. In reality, that country extended from the Isthmus of Tehuantepec to the Isthmus of Panama. The Mayas built the largest pyramids in the world, and the most of them. They built the finest concrete roads ever seen in ancient or modern times. One is about 94 miles long. It is made of broken granite, sand, and the most wonderful cement. It is 99 feet 8 inches wide on top, a finished roadway. I say what? It cuts through hills that are 400 to 500 feet high. It has one fill 821 feet high and more than 1,400 feet wide at the bottom. It is rip-rapped on the sides of immense granite blocks. Under the high fill are 13 culverts. At the south end of this road was a city that has sunken beneath the Caribbean Sea. The ruins of a portion of this city may now be seen beneath the water. Atlantis? This road leads into the interior about 94 miles to a pyramid that is 656 feet high and covers about 21 1/4 acres. The great traveler and scientist Alexander von Humboldt describes a pyramid near Cholula, Mexico that is about 1,100 feet high and covers 45 acres. The pyramid at the north end of the wonderful road just described contains 2 1/4 times as much material as does the famous pyramid of Cheops, Egypt. And according to Humboldt, the pyramid of Cholula, Mexico is 7.5 times as large as the Egyptian pyramid. 7.5 times. The Mayas, who erected these wonderful pyramids in Mexico, colonized Egypt, Persia, Arabia, and many Asiatic countries. Let me say that again. The Mayas, who erected these wonderful pyramids in Mexico, colonized Egypt, Persia, Arabia, and many Asiatic countries. The land of Mesopotamia along the Euphrates and Tigris rivers was settled by this same race. Anyone who can read the cuneiform writings found in Egypt can read the inscriptions on the 288,000 clay tablets found by Dr. Hilprich of the University of Pennsylvania under the ruins of Nineveh, and Babylon, and can also read the sacred books of Yucatan and of other parts of southern Mexico. The historical books of Yucatan reach back to 8,745 years before the Christian era, or 10,655 years from the present year. Beyond this, tradition and mythology reach 30,000 to 40,000 years. The historical events recorded in the Maya sacred writings are correlated with astronomical data. For instance, it is recorded that Quetzalcoatl commenced the wonderful road already described 100 days after a total eclipse of the sun, which was on a certain hour, day, and year. Astronomers have verified this eclipse. It was in June BC 7745. Calculations proved that this eclipse was visible in that country on that day and hour. 100 days after this eclipse would fall on September 15th. This road was commenced according to this calculation on September 15th BC 7745, or 9,655 years ago. Many dates are fixed by references to eclipses of the sun and moon. The Mayas and other sun-worshipping nations had much better systems of dividing time than have the Christian nations. The Mayas made observations on the sun each December. Their years began on the first day that was longer than the preceding day, i.e. December 25th. Their system kept their civil time in harmony with astronomical time. Listen to this. The Christian nations have changed the day of the week, month, and year 3 times in 1700 years. Constantine the Great added 80 days to the year AD 386. Pope Leo X added 10 days to the year AD 1565. This confusion was not necessary under the Maya system. Perhaps the most wonderful invention by any man in any age is the calendar wheel. It is recorded that Quetzalcoatl invented this wheel more than 9,600 years ago. It is a perpetual calendar. It does not have to be brought to date, as do our modern almanacs. Representations of this calendar wheel are found engraved on rock tablets in many places throughout southern Mexico. As immigration diverged from Yucatan, the arts and sciences of that country were introduced into other lands, but they were gradually lost in lapse of ages. The knowledge of the method of making cement was used in the southwestern part of the United States. The line that divides the ruins containing cement mortar from those containing mud mortar is loosely described as follows: El Paso, Texas, to Fort Bayard, New Mexico. Thence to the head of Little Colorado River in Arizona, thence to Lake Tahoe on the line of California and Nevada, and thence to Cape Mendocino on the coast of California. North of this line, mud mortar was used, and south of it, cement mortar is usual, as shown by the walls of old ruins. This is a good one. The Maya-Aztec tide of immigration swept northward to southern Colorado and northern Texas. From these frontier settlements, military expeditions were sent eastward to attack the frontier settlements of the mound builders. The battle line along which war was waged, no doubt for ages, extended from Omaha, Nebraska to St. Charles, Louisiana. So far as now known, the most important battle ever fought along this line was in eastern Oklahoma, 2 miles south of Redlands and 22 miles southwest of Fort Smith, Arkansas. Here, the Maya Aztecs buried over 60,000 of their dead. Over 14,000 skeletons were uncovered in the building of the Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and Gulf Railroad in 1895. And 4½ acres only were excavated in this cemetery. I've got an article of some archaeologists finding a battle. I don't remember where it was that they found it, but it was in the United States, and it was in the Oklahoma, area. I'll pop it up right here. Right. I haven't done that before. It includes about 30 acres. More than one-half the skeletons show violence, i.e. broken bones, battle axes, and arrow points and skulls, etc. About 3 miles easterly are 3 large mounds that are supposed to contain the bodies of mound builders killed in this great battle. Southern Arizona in ancient times was densely populated. One sunken city in the Salt River Valley contained about 380,000 rooms. There are hundreds of miles of ruins along the Salt and Gila valleys, which we have seen. Chaco Canyon, which opens into the San Juan Valley near the southwestern corner of Colorado, contains 90 miles of ruins of the cliff dwellers. Princeton University had a corps of men collecting relics in this canyon for 3 summers, and their exploring was confined to one 7-story building. It yielded many carloads of relics, which were shipped from Durango. The cliff dwellers cultivated one kind of wheat, squash, pumpkin, and tobacco, and 2 kinds of beans and corn. They buried all of their dead in a sitting posture in walled pits. A bowl with a ragged hole broken in its bottom was upset and placed over the head of each dead body. The bodies of the distinguished or prominent people had finally pulverized charcoal tamped around them. Mummies taken from these charcoal pits show the color of eyes, hair, and complexion. Listen to this. In the valley of the Sapelo, a tributary of the Gila River in Grant County, New Mexico, the mummies have blue eyes, fair complexions, and light flaxen hair. The cliff dwellers first settled New Mexico, Arizona, and southern Colorado before the last mountain uplift, the last volcanic era. Dana says this era was at least 23,000 years ago. LeConte says about 60,000 years ago. Maybe much sooner, maybe much sooner. How do we know the cliff dwellers lived before this volcanic era? Because the floors of some of their houses have been lifted and inclined until one cannot walk on them, and they are now under from 20 to 40 feet of lava and volcanic ash. The ancient Mayas understood the use of the lever, screw, wheel, and many mechanical devices. They excelled in engineering, as their roads, aqueducts, culverts, bridges, buildings, and pyramids prove. They excelled in art, as their statuary, bas reliefs, frescoes, and general architecture attest. They understood mathematics, at least some branches of it. They had some knowledge of chemistry. They equaled our scientists in some division of astronomy. They had a written language about 11,000 years ago. They were a highly civilized people when our ancestors were naked savages. Well, that was rude.